Just checking. So we are good to go.
So this goes live on all platforms?
So I'm live. We're live on YouTube right now. I'm checking Facebook. And we're live on Facebook. And let me check Instagram.
This is cool like that.
So this always gives me a headache on Instagram. I don't see us live on Instagram, but that's fine. I am just going to go live on iFeed, and then I'm going to post it on Instagram once I'm finished.
Okay. This is new for me. I've never seen this before, so we figured
So
it out
yeah,
together.
this is actually a new platform, but it's really dope. Okay, you're awesome. Thank you so much for being so patient and just rolling with the punches. And this has like been such a long time coming. Like we've tried this like since last year. We wanted to connect, and it just and even just now, like if I didn't like, I thought about something in your book, like you just gotta keep pushing. Gotta keep
Yeah.
pushing. And I'm like, we got this. So let's get this party started. So welcome to the BlackXChange Korner with me, your host, Marie Dunn. I am super excited and elated to like really have you here with us today. But I have to give you a proper introduction. I think it's safe to say that we can all relate to feelings of disappointments, folks telling us that we're not good enough, being at the crossroads of life and not sure if we should go left or right, recognizing when we need help and asking for help only to be dismissed. Today, we are here to see how Akeem Haynes made the conscious decision to go right when life turned left. Akeem is the founder of AK Inspires. He's a two-time published author. He's 2016 Olympic bronze medalist, international motivational speaker, host of Unscripted podcast, and he's also a blogger. Akeem is focused on helping others realize their full potential while building their resilience to get through their most difficult times. He's helping others to break those mental barriers. Akeem is here to get you from a defeated mindset to a dominating mindset. Those are his words. Akeem has worked with Virgin Mobile, Alberta Correctional Services, Canada's Sports Hall of Fame, Sundial, Calgary Police Foundation, just to name a few. Akeem is an inspiring and he's a game changer. Akeem, it is such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Now, I am going to go ahead and give you the floor. We welcome you. Good evening. Tell us who you are, aside from what I just read on paper.
I need to somehow allow you to narrate my whole presentation before I go. But no, it's a pleasure to be on here. Like you said before, we tried a year ago to try to make this happen, and even just the past 10 minutes, the fight that we've been getting for it. But all in all, in a nutshell, I believe we're all here to serve in a capacity that is authentic to ourselves, right? And so everything that you named is just my way of being obedient to God's will and just serving, right? So I could say all of those different things, and it's all cool, it's all important, but for me, I'm a servant of Christ first and foremost.
Got it. Awesome. Akeem, thank you so much. I think I want to jog your memory because it's so easy. We live in this world where social media basically highlights everyone is being successful. It's like almost that instant gratification, like you wake up and we're all stars, but we never see the story, we see the glory. So I want you to take me back to that 13-year-old who made that promise to himself and to his mother.
Yeah, so a lot of things happened to me pretty early in my life, right? We all go through different trials and tribulations. And when we are facing those certain tests, that is the hardest thing that we are going through until something else comes. So at 13 years old, right, Calgary, Alberta, middle of winter time, minus 22, and I'm walking to school. Normal day, walking to school. I go throughout school, walking back home. Now, as I'm going back home, I get inside of the house, open the door, and all of a sudden, as I open the door, I see 3 garbage bags on the ground. And I said, wait a minute. I know we didn't eat this much food last night, right? This doesn't make no sense. And so as I get closer to the garbage bags, I see my hat, right? And I see my shirt in another bag. And I said, wait a minute. Hey, these these are my stuff, right? And my mom comes down the steps and she says, Akeem, go upstairs and get your stuff. Like, we got to go. I said, Mom, what are you talking about? Got to go. It's minus 22 outside. What do you mean get our stuff and go? And she said, Akeem, I don't need you to talk back. I don't need this back and forth. Go upstairs and get your stuff. Like, we have to go. And so at 13 years old, I had a garbage bag in one hand, garbage bag in another bag, another hand, backpack on. And my mom and I were walking, homeless. Didn't know where we were walking to, didn't know where we were going, but we knew we had no place to stay. As we were walking, we saw this bus stop, and we figured, at least this is what I think, that we figured that that bus stop was at least going to be a place of shelter. So at 13 years old, we became homeless. But, you know, Marie, here's the crazy thing. When I first came to Canada from Jamaica, right, it was the first time I had ever seen superhero movies, right? Like Batman, Robin, Flash, like all of these different characters. So as a young kid who was coming to a different country, I'm thinking, it must be like this out here, right? And I remember watching the Superman movie, and this girl fell from the sky, or she fell from the building. And as she fell from the building, Superman came and saved her right in the nick of time before she fell. And I said, man, that's crazy. And so I was thinking as we were at the bus stop, I'm like, man, at some time, like at some point, Superman is going to come. And then an hour went by, and then 3 hours went by, and then 4 hours went by, and then the sky started to get dark. And I realized at this time in my life, I said, man, ain't no Superman coming to keep. And then I realized 2 things during that moment. If anything is going to happen in your life, you are going to have to be the one to do it. You can't wait for somebody to come and save you. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. And I also realized this. In the midst of that pain and that turmoil and that chaos and that uncertainty, I realized the power of gratitude. I was so grateful that I had my mom with me, because I don't know if I would be here to this day if I was going through that by myself. I was so grateful that I had at least this bus stop with glass doors that was protecting us from the wind. I was so grateful that I had a jacket to at least keep me a little warm. I was grateful that I had shoes and I had laces in them. And so in the midst of that pain, that heartache, I realized, man, there is always something to be grateful for if you know where to look.
Absolutely. Wow, that is profound. We're here today and look at you because I started following you, I think it's either last year early, or I'm not even sure, but it was Stephen Robinson, because I
Yes,
follow him. He's like another inspirational man. And I follow him, and somehow you popped up. And then, of course, I was intrigued and just like in awe by your growth and your story. And then when I purchased your book, I just felt like this instant connection. And you took me on this roller coaster ride. Like I felt the 13-year-old, the sadness. I felt that love that you had for your mother, and I saw your resilience. And one thing I realized as well is that we are more similar. And when I say we, it's just people in general. We're more
yes.
similar than we're different. And I
Mm,
think if we realize that and we start capitalize and how we are so connected, I think it would actually make a difference, right? So,
yeah.
talk to me about your relationship with your mother now. How is that? Because it's like your mother, she was like your anchor.
Yeah, you know, my mom had me young, right? You know, I always say I actually graduated high school twice because when she was pregnant, she graduated, and then I came back and did it again. But she had me young, and one of the things about that we've been through is I've watched her grow up as she was raising me, right?
Awesome.
So our relationship dynamics has always been a little different. It wasn't necessarily just a father or a mother and their child relationship. It was kind of like a partnership because as much as I was learning from her, I think that she was learning from me as well too. But she taught me a lot of invaluable lessons without actually teaching me. My mom always was on the go. She was working 3 jobs, sometimes 4. And so I would never really see her, right? So I was left with making a whole bunch of decisions by myself. Marie, I, you said earlier I went right, but I could have went left.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I could have went left. But what stopped me is I saw the sacrifices that she was making and I saw the hard work that she was putting forth.
Mm-hmm.
But I was there when the tears were there. I was there when the pain was there. And I was there when the heartache was there. And I was there when she felt useless. And I was there when she felt worthless. And I was there in the dark moments. And so I made a decision to myself. I said, I cannot be out here playing certain games, not trying to improve myself and get better, knowing that I had to go through all of these things with her. I didn't want to add to the disappointment and the pain. I wanted to uplift and to find a way to get through it so she could see, man, I may not have everything figured out, but I know that my son, he's going to do something to get better in different ways. So my mom taught me a lot of things without actually teaching me. And I made a conscious decision that I was going to not be part of the pain in her life, but hopefully be a light anyway in any space that I could, even if I wasn't at the age to necessarily know what exactly was going on.
Um, I think I must underscore your overall resilience ever such at such a young age, because I also recall reading, and you said something earlier about asking for help.
Mm.
And I was just like really moved because sometimes we ask for help and then people are so dismissive. And I can't help but think about your professor. You know, your first day of class, you said it's like it's not like even was like a month into it. It's your very first day of class. And you walked in and you recognized that you needed this support and actually meeting with him. And he was just like, if you ask me, he was just really rude and disrespectful. But
Yeah.
still you kept pushing, you never gave up. And even when he said to you, oh, you must have cheated, and you said to him, yeah, really, would I cheat for a C? I could do better than that. But it's just how you're able to overcome, and I want you to like speak to me about that, because we have our youths today, again, because of social media and what social media portrays. And again, because there is that mother, sometimes it's like a single household, and
Mm.
our youths are left trying to figure it out on their own and fend on their own. So speak to me about someone who may be seeing this live at some point in time and they are thinking about going left, right? Talk to me about how you could probably encourage them to go on the right road instead.
Yeah, so I want to break it down in 2 different categories, right?
Absolutely.
As a young adolescent, under your parents' care. Honestly, take a moment. If your parents are working a lot, schedule it in a day or something, but sit down and ask them what they had to go through to get to this point. I guarantee you will find some inspiration if you just listen to your parents, your guardians, and listen to see what they had to overcome to get to this point, right? But most people take advantage of what is in their life because that's the comfort. Whatever
Yeah.
is comfort, you don't really think about it too much. You just say, it's always going to be there. But you don't know how comfort sometimes is actually a luxury, right? And so from a young adolescent, take time, sit down with your parents and just ask them all of the questions. Questions like, what did you have to overcome at this age? What were you thinking at this age? Did you have any support at this age? What was happening? What were you thinking at this age? Then you can compare and see, wait a minute, I have everything that they didn't have, and I'm squandering this. Obviously, we figure out things as we go, but you got to get a backstory to see what came before you so you can see where you're trying to go. The other part, when we come to the second half of it, I think we aren't going to have everything figured out. You know what I'm saying? I know we get to a certain point and we think we have everything figured out, but when we get to a different stage, we're like, man, we really don't know what's happening. Put it this way. When we were young and we see adults, maybe our grandparents, our mother, our father, our cousins, right? And when we're young, we're thinking, man, they have everything figured out. They know how to brush their teeth. They know how to wash clothes. They know how to cook. They know how to do all of those things. And then when we get to that age, we realize that they were just trying to figure everything out as they went through, right? That they had to navigate through life's trials and ups and downs and tribulations, right? So for me, even in the situation that you were talking about, I always know that there is a way to get through it, even if I don't understand, right? Because sometimes in life, things happen to us and we may be confused, we may be frustrated, we may not know what exactly is happening. But sometimes you don't know why something is happening and the reason behind it until you get through it.
Absolutely.
Once you get through it, you're like, oh, my patience was being tested because I needed to develop in that area. Oftentimes, the trials that we go through reveal something within us before it reveals something out of us, right? Everything is internal first, and then we work to see, can we listen to what's inside and put that into action outside? So in those regards, I always just knew and believed in my mind and my heart, even if I didn't understand it, that what I was going through was going to serve a purpose. I just had to give myself grace and be patient until I got the answer.
Wow, that is profound. That is profound. Patience. Let's go back to patience. 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 That is an art. That is a skill that requires mastery, right? And most of our youths and most people in general, they don't have that luxury of trying to learn how to be patient. And I think that's one of our biggest downfalls, because instant gratification, we want this right now, and we're not willing to do the work. But for whomever is going to see this live after, I want you to take a moment and acknowledge that you can achieve whatever it is that you want. You just have to be committed. You have to be consistent. And you can't throw in the towel when you hit a speed bump.
100%. Patience is hard to do, right? And for me, I'm not a patient person by nature, but I've learned that regardless if you aren't patient, patience is going to bestow itself upon you at some point. So you have to get ready for that, because when you think about it, we are waiting for something more than we are actually getting that opportunity, right? In the midst of waiting, you have to ask yourself, where is my heart at? Because if your heart is in the right place, you are going to be able to say, man, I know that this is preparing me for something. So what are some things that you can do while you wait? Well, wait with a good attitude. What does that look like? What can you improve on? I used to be terrible at reading. I would read a book and I just wouldn't be able to get it. I read the same page like 57 times and I'd be like, wait a minute, Akeem, you still haven't gotten it, right? But I knew that if I just continued to read and to read and to read and to read, that I would get better at reading. During a season of waiting, you are preparing for something, right? So many times, me being in the Olympics, it took me 4 years to even get to that point, right? Just because I was ready in one season didn't mean the Olympics was the next year or was ready for me, right? So in anything that we do, you are going to have to be patient. You are going to have to wait. You are going to have to develop certain intangible things internally. One of the toughest things, Marie, is getting an opportunity, but you didn't handle your preparation to seize that opportunity and you lose it.
Got it.
Right? So
Can you say that again?
if I can say it again, one of the things that I've always seen most is people you want the opportunity, but you haven't spent time preparing to seize the opportunity when it comes. We always want things fast. We do something and we get the results the next day, right? But are you going to keep it? Because whatever you get just as quickly, you can lose that just as quickly, right? So it's better to be prepared for something so you can keep it and thrive in it rather than to get it quickly because you want it, but you haven't developed the character to be able to keep it and move with it, right? Character development is how a person thrives when the opportunity comes. Character development happens in the dark. Who are you behind closed doors? How have you been waiting behind closed doors? How have you been talking to yourself behind closed doors? How have you been treating people behind closed doors when things aren't going well for you? Are you celebrating people in your circle? Are you still being an encouragement? These are all things that you have to practice in the dark because your character has to be at a level where your success can keep you. And so as we wait for certain things, you have to prepare internally to seize the opportunity externally.
That season, and understanding your season and knowing when to reap. And again, I can't help but saying about like this instant gratification, like we want everything now. But like you said, it's like you got to prepare yourself because it's so much easier for you to lose everything.
Yeah.
You could
Yes.
spend years working and molding your craft and getting to the next level. And just like that, you could just lose everything. So it's about being ready mentally. It's that mental preparation that sometimes we're so lacking. But Akeem, I'm going to go back to Olympics. You're
Okay.
2016 bronze
Okay.
medalist. I know we're sort of all over the place, but I'm just going as I moved, right?
That was good.
Because I think with you, like I, and with most individuals that I have that I talk to, I want it to be so organic
Mhm.
when we
Mhm.
talk, right? So, how did you get into the Olympics? Because I know you were athletic, right? But how did you actually get to that point to say, okay, fine, you know what? I want to be a part of this process.
So to be quite honest, going to the Olympics was never a dream for me. It was never something that I said that I actually wanted to do, right? It was something that happened because the prerequisite that gets to those points is dedication, practice, sacrifice, and all these different things. But originally, I wanted to play football, right? And so how I actually played or got into track was my coach. He said, Akeem, man, you can get faster for football if you run track. I said, man, I don't really want to do that, right? Because here's the thing, Marie. I couldn't understand why track and field was every other sport's punishment, right? You're running, right? So you're running. And so, but here's when I realized that this could be a gateway for me. I remember in the 11th grade, I became one of the fastest people in the world for my age. And then I started to get offers down south. I started to get letters down south. And I remember asking my mentor, that same teacher, I said, man, can these colleges pay for my school like 100%? He was like, yeah. I was like, let me ask you again, because I don't want no misconstrued. So I can take this letter and they will pay 100% of my school. Because it was in that moment that I realized that this was something that I could use to create a legacy coming behind me, not necessarily for people, but for my generation, my timeline. I was going to be the first in my immediate family to graduate college and not pay a single dime for it. And so I took it seriously, but I still didn't really know what the Olympics was like. But I remember when I got to my junior college, Barton Community College, 2012 was my first Olympic Games, and I didn't have the best year the year before, but 2012 I stepped inside the room and I said, Coach, I have to make this Olympic team. I wasn't really thinking about the Olympic team for the Olympics. I was thinking about the fact, look, if I run this well, I needed to hit the times. If I could hit Olympic standards, I had to get my school paid for because you can't. these are elite times, and so they could not say, Akeem, we don't want you. So I never really thought about the Olympics. I was thinking about the times to get me full scholarship. And so as I prepared that year and I made the team when I was 19, 20, I was like, man, this is what it's like to be at the elite of the elite. I wonder what could happen if I actually took this thing a little bit more seriously. And so 4 years later, my preparation for it was different. My mind was different because now I see, man, this is what it's like to compete against the best and the best. Let's see what I can do. And so every single year that you prepare for something, especially in sport, you focus on the year in front of you, but you are mindful of the long-term goal. That's why I always say it's important to think long-term, but commit short-term, right? Because when you think long-term, it's like having this exciting dream that you want to accomplish, but your situation may not be ideal, but you can see the dream. The dream gives you hope. The dream encourages you. The dream allows you to commit to the day-to-day things that will help you get there, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I know I can do it. I've done it before. Now I want to make sure that when I go there this next time, that the world knew that I was there.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. You have to see it. Once you start seeing it, then you can start believing it. But I had shared your book with a friend, and she literally made postcards and she
Oh,
posted
wow.
it all over her room. And these
Wow.
are two, I asked her to send me two of her favorite lines that keeps her when she's at her dark moments and she needs to get through. One of them is like, you have to feed that gift every single day, even if it's only for a few moments. Every
Wow.
single day, you have to invest in that gift.
Wow. I said that?
Yes, you said that. You said that. I don't know which page. I have it highlighted in your book as well. Because the
I
beauty
said
about it, like the way I read, I have like this relationship with books. And this is the
mm,
reason I stick to hard copies. I highlight, I crease, I make notes, and that's how I
mm.
read. And you did say that in your book. And this is what I'm saying. I read your book 3 times, by the way,
Wow.
um, because I think for me, and one thing I've learned through this process in called life is that sometimes we're saying that we want to connect with the Oprahs and the Tyler Perrys, but then we have our everyday Akeem and we have our everyday Stephen that are doing great stuff, right? So not because you're not at that level, right? Socioeconomic level. To me, you guys are just doing profound work. And I stick to that because every single day, and that's something I'm going to ask you, regardless of how you have it figured out to an extent. And like you said before, we're not going to always have it figured out. We're going to have moments when we are going to hit those roadblocks and we're going to have to try to say, how do I get to point A again?
hmm
Talk to me about those moments behind closed doors. When you get to that point, how do you overcome?
You know, so I think every person needs a system that helps them, right?
Exactly.
And every system works differently. I'm sure, Marie, you have heard it. Some people say, you know, you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You have to get up at 5:30. And don't get me wrong, there are some benefits to that, but that may not work for you. You know what I'm saying? That may not work for you. And so for me, um, I stay my foundation in the Word, in Christ, right? And even if you're not a religious person, you know, the Scripture teaches you about principles. And so for me, whenever I do that, my morning always starts for the first 2 hours of my morning, hour and a half. I don't do anything for anybody else but myself. I think one of the things that most people forget is you have to pour into yourself. Right? You have to do things for you. You have to do things that uplift you. You have to pour into your well. It's like trying to say you have a well, you are digging a well, right? And every time you pour into yourself, you pour into that well, right? Every time somebody wants something from you and needs something from you, then they go to that same well, but they take from it and pour it on them. How effective can you be if you go back to your well and there's nothing in there because you've been putting everybody else first? right? So you have to generate that time to pour into yourself, because you have to take you wherever it is that you go. You are the one constant in every single variable in your life. And if you want to help people, you want to encourage people, you want to be everything that you are called to be, you got to be that to yourself behind closed doors, right? So you always need time to make sure that you are pouring into yourself. So that's what I would do. That's what I would say. Whatever helps uplift you, maybe it's reading a book, maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's listening to a podcast. Do enough for you so you can be what you need to be to the world and for those around you, right? Take time to get to know yourself. Know how you operate. Know when to say no, right? And don't feel bad about that. Man, somebody's calling you. You have a busy day tomorrow, and they want to come out. Say, hey, look, hey, I'm there. I'm there with y'all in spirit, but I can't be there physically, right? And don't feel guilty about that, right? You have to put yourself first in life, and it took me a while to understand that. But I realized, man, I probably would have been extremely more helpful if I would have put myself first a long time ago. It's going to be hard. It's going to take work.
Yeah.
But you need to make sure that your well is full, mind, body, and spirit, so you can be the best version of yourself. That's where it starts.
Yes.
The best version of yourself isn't this external statement, right?
No.
It's knowing when to put yourself first and knowing how to do that. And the only way you figure that out is if you spend time getting to know yourself, because then you'll know your triggers. Then you'll know what you like, what you don't like, what uplifts you, what doesn't uplift you, what makes you beat inside, what angers you. But most people don't take time to get to know themselves. I'm hoping that the pandemic has helped a lot of people do that.
Wow, you said so many things just now. You said so much just now. I truly appreciate that. But one thing that stood out to me, it's that close exploration of the intimate self,
Mm.
getting to know who you are as an individual, and keeping your vessel full, keeping your vessel full, and figuring out your system, what works for you. What's working for me is not going to work for you, Akeem. We're two different individuals. You inspire me, but still, I have to figure out how am I going to use that inspiration to make it work for me. And I think that's where it gets like really tricky and chaotic for people. And I'll just add to that. It's like really spending time with yourself. It's okay to be alone. I was reading one of your blogs, and you also talked about taking yourself out or just like going for a walk by yourself. It's like, what it is that you're going to do for yourself. Because if you don't pour into this vessel, you're going to have an empty vessel. If you keep giving every single day, and people will take, trust me, they're good at that. They'll take, and when Akeem drops dead, they just keep moving and they find the next person. And it's like a cycle for them. So you have to know yourself and know when to say, hey, I'm putting the brakes on. I got to stop right now. But Akeem, you've taken this to a whole different level. And you have so much that you do every single day. And I know it's because you're spiritually grounded, because I am that person and I could feel that energy. And you're walking in your purpose.
Mm.
Talk to me about your purpose.
Well, I think that there is purpose inside all of us, but sometimes we don't listen to it because it's disguised differently. Give you an example. Talents, gifts, purpose are all in this pyramid, this triangle, this circle, whatever you want to call it, but they're all related, right?
Yes.
I was I don't want to say very talented. I was talented in sport, right? I was able to do a whole bunch of things that a lot of people weren't able to do, but I had that talent in me that God had given me, right? But I knew that wasn't my purpose. Our purpose in life, let's go back. How does someone find their purpose? Here's a hint. Let's go back to the gift, because the gift and the purpose go hand in hand, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you find your gift? Well, that gift is the one thing that you wake up, that you just think about, that you can do, that just comes to you so easy. You don't even gotta you don't even gotta give it a second thought. It just comes, right? Some people can open up their mouth and sing a tune, and you're like, wait a minute, where have you been keeping that? Some people can do mathematics so well. You're like, man, what's 3,062 times 7,007? And they'll be like, oh, it's this. And you're like, wait a minute, how did you, right? Those are gifts, but how do you use your gifts to operate inside that thing? Well, the purpose, in my definition, is finding a way to serve that is authentic to you, right? So for me, I had always had a gift of words, but I didn't know that, right? When I was 20 years old, um, when I was very young, maybe 8, 9 years old, my first question I ever asked myself that was, I guess, kind of more in depth was, what is the purpose of life? Didn't really know anything what that kind of meant, but I knew there has to be something here for all of us to do. I spent a lot of my years just being quiet, not by choice, but because I had a very bad stuttering problem, right? So bad. I would freeze up when I would try and talk. And like, my cousins would kind of joke on me about it. And even though they're meaning it in good harm, it still affected me up here, right? So I wouldn't say anything. So I spent a lot of years just listening. When I was 18, 19 years old, people would say, Keith, man, you're a good listener. You give good advice, right? And I didn't really know anything too much about that. I just thought that people were just being nice, just to be nice. And so I kept hearing it enough times and kept hearing enough times, right? And I said, man, why do they keep saying that? Sometimes you don't know what you're good at until somebody else tells you. So I remember at that time, I said, you know what? I'm going to go speak at the school when I went back. So I started speaking to different schools and I started to develop this, man, I think this could be something here. This is when I knew that this is what God called me to be. I had retired from sport and I was speaking full time now. Now, when you are operating in your purpose right away, you are going to face some tricks, some traps, some setbacks, some delays, because you are going to walk a path of most resistance. For whatever reason, whenever a person operates in their purpose, the enemy wants to take that away so you don't fulfill what God put inside of you, so you don't give hope to those coming behind you, right? Because now you have the blueprint of how you got through it. So I remember I went to go speak at this school. Money was super low. I was confused on so many different things. I couldn't find the right path for me. I went to go speak at this school, and I was supposed to speak for 20 minutes, but whatever it was, I spoke for 40 minutes. I remember the next day, I usually go for morning walks, and I go for a morning walk, and I never bring my phone with me, but I went for a walk, and I was sitting on this bench. And all of a sudden, like something was vibrating in my pockets. And I was like, oh man, I must have forgot to take my phone out, right? And so I take the phone out because somebody had DM'd me on Instagram. And I opened up the message and it was from a person who was at that pub. And he said, man, I just want to share something with you because I need you to know what you did for me. Wow. I was going to take my life the day before. I was going to end it because, man, my mom and dad, they just got divorced. I didn't know what was going to happen. They were talking about moving to a different city, and I didn't know how to operate that. And I was going to take my life because I couldn't deal with it. But then the school sent an email saying that there was a speaker coming in to speak to us. And I realized that he was from the city. And so, for whatever reason, I just felt led to go to school the next day. And he said, the things that you shared about your times of homelessness, about your times where you lost hope, that is what helped keep me going. That is why I'm going to fight, because I know that people who are going through certain things look like me as well, too. And so I opened up the phone and I was looking at the message. I was reading the message and tears came down my face. And I started to think at that moment, I said, man, okay, God, I hear you. Right? I hear you. Because sometimes when we're moving in our purpose, we just need to know that God is with us, right? We just need to know that he's in the presence. We just need to know that the covering and the anointing and the favor that he has on us hasn't left. And that was my sign. And that always brings me back when things aren't lining up the way that I want it to be. But just because it's not lining up because how we want it to be doesn't mean he's not making it come together, right? And so it was in that moment where I said, man, Akeem, if your purpose is going to be fulfilled, you have to trust that, one, that there is something in you, and you have to trust that no matter what trials and tribulations you face, as long as you got breath in your body and that purpose and that mission, you still got to press towards the mark.
Wow, absolutely. Um, I believe that I love to say that my God, he's mischievous, he's mysterious, and he's intentional. He's so calculating. If I tell you about my relationship with God, but I'm saying this to say, just to, you said something so powerful about listening and aligning yourself with God, right? And sometimes God is not ready for us yet. And
Mm,
sometimes we think that we are, but God is actually saving us.
mm,
But sometimes I think with him, it's the how he does it. And I think he does it intentionally sometimes to humble us, to make us recognize that, hey, slow down the pace, be more grateful, because we take things for granted so easily.
yes.
COVID taught us that, like we used to be able to get up and just go outside as we chose.
Mm,
Now that luxury was ripped from us. And there's restrictions and everything we have to do. There are rules we gotta follow.
yeah.
But I'm really hoping that people pay attention because some folks are still so in denial. But
Mm.
I'll go back to what you were saying. It's like about being silent and being able to listen because we don't do a good job at listening. We're just waiting for you to shut up so I could say what I had to say on my mind. And the listening is also a skill and an art that people must develop.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
listening with your mind, body, and soul and focusing. That's what listening is. So, Akeem, thank you so much. And like the gift of words, you sure have a way with words.
Oh, thank you.
You sure
That's
have a way with words. And, I know that you're just going to continue to impact, inspire, and to motivate others to be the best version of themselves. But I wanted to check in with you. When you have to prepare for any of your speaking engagements, because every audience is different, can you talk to me about what that preparation looks like and what jitters you get in your stomach, if any?
yeah. So first I want to say nerves are good, right? If you aren't nervous about something, then you probably don't care that much, right?
Absolutely.
And so you have to harness the nerves and the emotions because our emotions are like fire, right?
Yes.
When controlled fire, it can grill up some steaks, it can grill up some chicken, it can grill up some whole bunch of things, right? It's controlled. But when it's not controlled, it can be dangerous and it can burn down a city. So when I go and present, I always ask the company or the schools or whomever what exactly that you want. For sure, normal stuff.
Mhm.
And then I write the core values of the company and that team and write that down in a circle. And I kind of just do branches up from it. Now my style is a little bit different because I don't prepare the traditional way, right? I will sit and I will look and I will have highlights words. So I'll have stuff like focus, perseverance, resilience, depression, states, emotional. And I will have all of these things and I will attach a story for exactly what I think that they need. And so I will sit and I will think and I will look at the paper and I'll just make this web inside my head. I'll be like, okay, yep, this fits here, because I've realized through trial and error, when I write stuff down, I don't allow my heart to show what I wrote down. I don't allow my points to go and hit where I need to get because I'm so trying to be a robot, right? So I just let my mind create the scenarios and the transition. So now when I see it, I'm focusing on, okay, how can I make this emotion appear here? What's the lesson? What's the information? How can I give them something? How can I feed them? but make them full and not be hungry an hour later. Right? So for me, I prepare so much behind closed doors that when I go up to speak, everything that I've prepared for already comes, because everything that we are, Marie, is already inside of us.
Absolutely. I
It
truly
is
believe that.
inside of us. However, circumstances, opposition, and obstacles make us forget what is inside of us because what is on us.
Mm.
And so for me, again, I said I had some stuttering problems. Well, I would prepare so much in the dark. I had to work on my dictionary skills. I had to make sure I could pronounce certain words because I wanted to make sure that there was no room that I found myself in who they could say Akeem is not prepared. Akeem doesn't have the wherewithal. Akeem doesn't have the knowledge. Akeem doesn't have the words. No, I have the words because I prepared for the position, even if it hasn't come yet. So many people talk about the process of life, and the process of life, that's never going to go away. I've never really been a commit to the process type of guy because all of the process is not fun.
Now,
All of the process is not fun. However, if we can commit to the day of making the most of each day and controlling today and dealing with the tasks of today and the emotions of today, then we can find something to take from the day that is positive, and that will help carry the momentum for the next day, right?
absolutely.
And so there's so many times in the scripture where it says, be strong, be courageous, be strong, be
Be
courageous.
courageous.
Well, we got to practice that in the dark and know what that looks like in the dark
Exactly.
first. And sometimes being courageous is preparing for an opportunity even when you can't see it.
Yes.
And so my preparation when I go to speak, when I go to present, when you put on a camera, it's already going to come out. It's already in me because I put it in me when nobody was watching.
Love that. Love that. Those are the times that's so important. Those moments when people are not watching.
Mm, mm.
That's what's important. When we are behind closed doors, and that's how you know if someone is good. Because you're going to be good regardless of anyone is watching. It's not just doing it because you know what? Oh, yeah, I know I have an audience, so I'm going to be politically correct. It's about being politically correct when no one is watching.
Let me give this example of a moment that I had to battle, right? Um, Before the pandemic, I went out to this company had flew me out for their annual company gathering. 150 people, right? Suit, eyes, all of that good stuff. Production, man, it was magnificent, right? And I went there, and I did what I was supposed to do. And I remember the CEO came over and he said, "Akeem, can you come back next year? Like we love that." 3 days later, I had another engagement, right? But this was a smaller room, probably about 13 people, and it was free. But I said that I would do it. This company had just paid me $6,000 for a 20-minute presentation. 150 people, and I was coming back to do the free of the 13. The old us is always there wherever it is that we go. Because in that moment, I said, man, I could take this day off. You know what I'm saying? Like I could give a little half energy. I could give a little half words. But then I said to myself, Akeem, man, God is watching you. You gon' you gon' He just blessed you with this opportunity to go speak in front of 150 business owners. And now because the crowd is different and there's less people and there's no camera, there's no this and that, you're gonna give that half effort. I'm watching you. And so I actually doubled down and spoke way more, way better than I did in the last one. Because we cannot get too focused on clapping in the light when we have
Yes.
to turn off the lights at night and know that we're laying in the dark.
Love
And
that.
so I just said, Akeem, everything that you're a part of, do not let the crowd get to you, that you forget that you have to clap all of those ears to yourself to encourage yourself in the dark. But that was me forgetting for a split second of my preparation in the dark, right? And I'd like to think that I didn't have those thoughts or wouldn't have those thoughts, but I'm human, right? But it
Yeah.
was a great reminder for me to say, Akeem, regardless of whoever is watching, man, it's about giving your best effort because you never know who is in that room and who needs to hear the message that you have to give to them that day.
And you know what? Thank you so much for saying that. It's normal. We're human. We feel. It
Yes.
doesn't matter how connected we are to God. I think that's when we're tested the most.
Mm, amen to
That's
that.
when we're tested the most. So it doesn't matter. And I think sometimes people get so caught up with Christianity. And I guess it's because they don't really understand.
Mm,
Because people may look at me and they're like, wow, this girl, she writes erotic poetry and she's out there, but she talks so much about God. But that's my relationship with my God. I
and
am not here.
have they read the Bible?
Exactly. Songs of Solomon, Proverbs. And I think that's where we have to, it's about our mind and how we process things and how judgmental that we can be. But we really need to stop.
Mm,
We really need to stop. And I'm going to go back. Les Brown. We share
mm,
something in common. And this is one of my favorite things that Les Brown says. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality.
yeah,
Does
yeah.
not have to become your reality. And that's part of how I feed my soul every single day. You talked about creating a routine. I have a routine for myself every single day because I got to pour into this vessel so I
Mm,
could be the best version of myself when I'm at
mm,
work and when I'm with
mm,
others. So I think it's like, again, I'm going to reiterate it. It's like some of the points that you basically said. It's like you got to be dedicated. It takes practice. You got to be consistent. Ask for clarity. We got to learn to listen, and we're
mm.
going to prepare even when we don't have that job and we don't see that opportunity. Akeem, thank you so much for this moment. And I want you, for anyone that's listening, and we'll look at this later. And I think this was like a perfect time for us to meet as well because it's mental health month, May's mental health month. You talk about that kid who you saved. Share some words of inspiration and encouragement.
First, Maria, I want to say thank you for having me, but most importantly, thank you for answering the call. You know what I'm saying? It's not my call, it's not your call, it's God's call,
Yeah.
right? And everything that you are doing, you are giving it back to Him because it's Him using you. You kept using the word vessel, and I'm just, man, that is it. We are the vessel. For those listening, here's what I would say. It's something that has been inside my heart, right? Just for my own personal self, is, man, if I would undertone it or give it a title, I would say, "Who told you that?" Here's what I mean by that. Who told you that you weren't worthy? You know what I'm saying? Like, who told you that? Like, who told you that you can't do great things? Like, who told you that you're stupid? Like, who told you that you're foolish? Who told you that? You didn't tell yourself that,
Yeah.
right? But somebody did. I don't know who it is. I don't know who said it. I don't know why they said it. But you don't got to believe that they said it. People are always going to doubt you, always going to critique you, always going to have something
Yes.
to say at any given moment. You could
Yes.
cure world hunger, and somebody would say, well, why'd you do it that way? So someone's always going to say something. You just have to make the decision and the choice that you aren't going to be one of them.
Wow. That's profound. Thank you so much for that. And every show I end with a quote, and I'm using one of your quotes. And it says, when you focus your attention more on your goals and less on the opinions of others, you give yourself a better shot at making your goals and dreams a reality. Be courageous enough to bet on you. Akeem Haynes. Do you realize how this loss all interconnects and we're speaking the same language, the same message? Again, it's God. And normally I would start my shows with and asking God into the space, but I guess because of the glitch and probably my own jitters trying to get this going, I didn't get a chance to do it. So I'm gonna close with this. Um, Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much for creating this space and for pouring into Akeem so that he could continue to be your servant, so that he could bless others with his gift of words. And God, I ask that you may just send your angels to love and to touch those broken individuals, give them hope, give them strength. And as we go about our day, let us continue to worship you. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
King,
That's powerful.
I am full. I am full.
That is powerful
I
right
am
there.
so full. Akeem, it was a pleasure. Please tell everyone where they could find you.
Maria, again, thank you again for having me. I know, as we said at the beginning, we tried to do this a year ago, right? But today, I think it was when it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Um, man. But for me, it's at underdog AKH on all social medias. Website www.akeeminspires.com. Podcast is Unscripted with Akeem Haynes. But never be afraid to connect with me. I'm pretty easy. I'm pretty accessible. I'd like to think I'm pretty accessible.
That you are. And please get a copy of this book. It will fill your soul. He has so many gems in this book. I said I've read it 3 times and I probably will read it again because of the messaging. It's about the messaging in there. But I have to ask you this question anyway. Why did you decide to say yes to come on BlackXChange? Because when I think about all that you do, why yes? It's crazy. We're still talking, but go ahead.
You,
Okay.
everything that you do, everything that you are a part of, it's you putting yourself outside of the comfort zone, right? You're putting yourself out there because there is a bigger message that you're trying to hit, that you are trying to do what God called you to do, right? Because as nature, especially, you're from Jamaica as well. So am I. We like to be in the cut. What I'm saying? We like to be in the back. We like to observe, and hold a dance on the time and just vibes out, right? But I know one of the things that people see a lot of the times is our accent, and then they see, man, wait, what did you just say? What did you just say? What did you just say? But you are also finding different ways to reach people with your voice, but through text. So I'm on this show because you have answered the call. Not my call, but God's call. And I'm on the show because you are everything that you say you are, right? And some people will see externally, but there are some people that you can see the heart. And so your heart is screaming, I'm on a mission and I got to complete the mission. But I'm not going to settle for less than what I believe God wants me to do and less than what I would. So you are the reason why I'm on this, because of you and your heart. So from me to you, the mission is just getting started.
Oh,
The mission is just
yes.
getting started.
Yes, it is.
And we just got to take it one day at a time, right? The scripture says, last thing I'll say, because I can talk about this all day, is Galatians 6, verse 9. For those listening, you find yourself in a tough space. Galatians 6, verse 9 says, do not be weary for doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest if you don't give up. If you give up, you'll never get the harvest. But you got to stay mentally sharp enough to endure and to sustain your emotions so you can get what it is that God has for you, right? So in the midst of everything that we're facing, uncertainty, doubt, fear, insecurities, that all comes because I realize that doubt and fear, while they can share a room, they cannot dwell in the same, say that back. They can share in the room, but they will not dwell in the same house, right? So doubt and fear may be on your shoulder and they may be able to be in the same room, but there's different doors, different rooms inside of a house. Put them in the storage room.
Yes.
Make your confidence show.
Yes.
The main
Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Why should I be afraid? Psalm 27, verse 1. And we'll close. Akeem, this is just the beginning. And I look forward to meeting you in person. And that's a promise that I'm going to keep.
Happen. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to
Guess
happen. So have an amazing rest of the day, an amazing rest of the week. Be great. Be your extraordinary self. And it was a pleasure. I'm humbled. Thank you.
Always appreciate it, Marie. We'll talk soon. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. I'll send you the video in a few.
Please do.